Hello and welcome to Lost in Sci-Fi and Fantasy. I'm your host Leo, and today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about podcast games. And I'll be honest, this is primarily because I'm a bit of an incompetent asshole, and I forgot to do something this week. I forgot to do anything this week because I was just busy this weekend and forgot. I haven't had a chance to watch a show, which I do have a show that I am thinking about doing another episode for. That's Doctor Who. Whether or not I get around to it, who knows? Because I do have I want to catch up on Doctor Who before the new series starts, so that's something I'm trying to do. But I didn't. I didn't read any books because I'm currently trying to still push through the other books, and I'll have an update on that later on this episode. And I didn't watch any movies because I've been feeling a little bit conflicted about watching movies in general. Because I feel like I've been watching too many movies and not doing enough, diverse stuff. But part of that's because I'm trying to read books and I'm so busy. But putting that aside, putting it over to the side, what I did do is also procrastinate to the nth degree by listening to podcast games and ruining my sleep schedule. I believe I mentioned it in the most recent Pirates of the Caribbean episode that I just had a lot of trouble sleeping and staying awake and whatnot, and I was sick, and things just got weird and annoying very fast. But I'm feeling much better. I had a weird problem with my jaw as well, but that seems to be good now. So yeah, a lot of issues. So I decided, I've been wanting to do some topic episodes, so let's do a topic episode. And I've already started to kind of come up with some ideas for other topic episodes down the line as well, just to keep things spicy and different. Now, the topic that we're talking about today, podcast games, I'm going to want to touch on it again later on a different podcast if that opportunity, comes up. But for now, I just kind of want to talk about what my personal kind of criteria for a podcast game are, and whatnot. But overall, I think generally a podcast game is whatever you feel you can listen to a podcast to, really. Whatever you play that you can listen to a podcast to. If you don't care about a game's story and you just can drown it out with a podcast, but you have fun with the gameplay, that's a podcast game. Yeah, it's pretty simple. Personally, for me, if it has too much story, I can't really do podcasts, but if there's a lot of space between story points, then it just ekes in as a podcast game. Take, for example, Final Fantasy 15. You can fuck off and wander the world forever and, do a bunch of hunts and side quests and exploring dungeons. So you could listen to a podcast the entire time, especially since all of the boys' lines tend to just kind of loop in a fucking circle sometimes and can get really annoying when you're exploring that world. But anyway, what kind of gets default listed as a podcast game for me is anything that doesn't have a story. If it doesn't have a story and it's just pure gameplay, say Power Wash Simulator, which I've been playing a lot of recently, or American Truck Simulator, those kinds of games, you can just pop on a podcast, zone out, and deliver shit or clean shit. The first time I booted up Power Wash Simulator, I power washed away for 8 hours straight listening to podcasts. And I had a good old time doing so. I do also, real quick, want to give you guys a little bit of context as to my personal podcast backlog. Now, my podcast cycle is 5 to 6 podcasts long. So I have it alternating between the episodes and then it loops again in a cycle. That's what I call my catch-up cycle. It's the shows that I'm currently listening to, and I'm very, very far behind on. Uh, yeah. But I am currently... Let me check. On the Weekly Planet, for example, I am a little bit behind on clearing out some things, but I am 11 episodes behind. And that actually might be 12. I don't think it's fully updated yet. Let me see. 1 second. It's updating. Still updating, because in my list I have 39 podcasts like saved off to the side. Not all of them are like active podcasts that I'm listening to. Some of them are podcasts that upload once a year. There's some podcasts that upload extremely rarely, or have off cycles. But the ones that it is 12 on the Weekly Planet. But my main 6 are the ones that I'm doing my catch-up cycle. The Weekly Planet, BigSoftTitty.png, Jackson Bailey Spooks America, It's Probably Not Aliens, and Plumbing the Death Star. And then the 6th one, which I currently have a little bit of a break from for like 2 cycles, because 2 of the episodes that they uploaded just didn't work. So I had to take them out of the cycle, and I decided not to move them up in the cycle. But that's Baseless Speculation, and the episode that kept bugging out is a based reaction to Avatar: The Way of Water. But yeah, so that's kind of my podcast backlog. It's very... It's that for quite a few cycles. And then way down, I have something to like test. I want to test out a new series that to see if I want to listen to more of the episodes and whatnot. But it's way down there. So, for example, the testing of the series Scaredy Boys starts around episode 130 of Jackson Bailey Spooks America, and I am currently on episode 53. So I have quite a bit of time before I'm caught up there. That is why I personally love podcast games, because I can just sit there, zone out, and just listen to a podcast while I play a game. Ideally, my favorite kind of podcast game is not an idle podcast game. Where, like a Power Wash Simulator. I want to feel like I'm still progressing towards something, but listening to a podcast while doing it. And Power Wash Simulator and American Truck Simulator don't quite give me that same oomph of satisfaction. Like, I enjoy the fact that I'm making quote-unquote progress cleaning something or driving something somewhere, but at the same time, I just don't... Like, what am I progressing towards? With Power Wash Simulator, it's just the next thing to clean. And American Truck Simulator, for the first 3 hours I was playing that, it was to get out of debt because I abandoned my first job. Whoops. My first proper job, not the tutorial jobs. But yeah, so that's kind of that. So a story-driven one would be something like Final Fantasy 15, or I guess any Final Fantasy game, because side quests and hunts and whatnot, those can keep you occupied with podcasts, even just between story beats. You might be in a main mission, but not a whole lot's going on, so you can continue listening to your podcast. That's how I got through Final Fantasy 15. Then there's games that you play multiple times. So Spider-Man on PS4, for example, for me is now purely a podcast game, save for the fact that I'm streaming it right now, and I have to talk about it. Otherwise, if I was replaying it just for myself, it would be a podcast game for me. I would just pop on a podcast, go through the story, do some of the side quest stuff, but otherwise, it's a podcast game now. Same for Miles Morales, because I've already platinumed it as well, and that one I don't have to go back and fix some stuff here or there to get a proper platinum. some other games. Let me think. That any shooter game, really, like BattleBit or Call of Duty, Battlefield, all of those kinds of things. Those also get classified as podcast games because I can just pop on a podcast and do a few rounds in Call of Duty, for example. Although with the PS5, the controller makes me feel anxious that like they can hear the podcast, so I have to always make sure I mute the mic just to be safe. Because it's very awkward. As it is, when I'm platinum hunting, which is one of my favorite times to do podcast clear out. When I'm platinum hunting, sometimes the higher level trophies, when they do the little video clip of you getting the trophy, you just hear dead silence and a podcast in the background as I get the trophy. I find it funny every time, but at the same time, it's a little bit silly. I do like it because it's like a snapshot into what I was doing at the time. What was I listening to? Oh, it's probably not Aliens. Fun. What was I listening to here? Jackson Bailey Spooks America. They were talking about Bigfoot or something. It's fun. And I think it's especially good to have like a podcast going when you're platinum hunting, because a lot of these platinums can be super tedious at times. Like take for example, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. That one got bugged, and I had to defeat the super boss 3 times just to get the trophy to pop. Or when you have to go collect X number of things, so you're just running around a map trying to systematically clear out each little section of it. It's going to get super tedious, so just pop on a podcast, zone out, and get shit done. Like, say, for example, when I was platinuming Lego Marvel Superheroes 1, I popped on a podcast for that. Many podcasts, obviously. And it just made the experience so much better. Because when you're just constantly running around the same areas, or you're trying to find what that last little bit is that you need to properly finish the game, it's nice to just not be too focused on it, or else you'll just get super stressed out. Yeah. I also use podcasts as a little bit of an excuse. So, like, for example, when I'm playing Call of Duty or something, I can't hear what's going on in the game because I'm listening to a podcast. So I'm not paying attention fully to the game, so that's why I'm bad. That's why my KD ratio is so terrible. Ignore the BattleBit episode I uploaded. It's because podcasts. Not because I'm just bad at shooters. But yeah, that's kind of it, really. It's also a good thing for getting through the podcasts themselves, I guess. Because personally, as who I am, I guess, I just have a lot of trouble focusing purely on the podcast. I have to be doing something with it. But at the same time, it can't be something so intense that I'm not focusing on the podcast. This used to be a big issue with me, trying to listen to podcasts while I was doing stuff, is that I might, if it's something that takes too much of my attention away, I'll get so absorbed in what I'm doing that I'll come out and realize, oh shit, what the fuck were they talking about? Oh, I just missed an entire episode because I just zoned the fuck out. And that's also an issue I have. That's part of the reason why I stagger the episodes I listen to. Because I have so much trouble listening to the same conversations kind of play out. So, for example, the way I used to do catch-ups would be I would just take all the episodes I have left and just slam them together. But now, since I have it staggered, I'm able to focus on each episode kind of individually, and playing a game while I listen to them gives me something to do Because sometimes I feel like when I'm listening to a podcast and just sitting there, I'm like, I'm wasting so much time doing nothing. Yet, if I don't listen to this now, I'm going to be so far behind later trying to listen to the podcast. As it is, like I said, I'm 12 episodes behind on the Weekly Planet. I'm so far behind. But with podcast games, I'm able to slowly but surely, catch back up. Though I do, obviously I have some trouble with, I want to play Crisis Core, for example, so that I can do an episode on it for this series. I just keep forgetting to play Crisis Core, partially because I get distracted doing something else, or I feel I want to make progress on a different game, that kind of thing. I've told myself I'm not allowed to play Final Fantasy 16 or Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth until I've finished Crisis Core. And then technically I need to finish Final Fantasy 16 before I can play Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. I have things and ways I've staggered it to where I have to do things in order to do other things. And then when I start procrastinating that linchpin things start to kind of compress. Final Fantasy 16 came out months ago. I still haven't played it because we're still working on Crisis Core, but it's also because I've been, I go back and play something else, and now I'm having a little bit of trouble because I like I said, the first time I booted up Power Wash Simulator, I played it for about 8 hours straight, and that's not really good for doing stuff that I can talk about. And thus we're here now talking about just the topic of podcast games. So some of the other topics that I'm thinking about potentially going over in the future is one. Now this one's kind of just a thing for my YouTube channel. I want to at some point do a comparison / retrospective on Call of Duty Modern Warfare, because I think that would be kind of interesting to do. Or I could just make it a topic episode. That's up to you guys, really, what you would like to see. Do you want to see me put in a lot of effort or very little effort and just talk about it? Like I am talking about podcast games. Or do you want something like super detailed where I have to go through and play each of the Modern Warfare games and then compare and talk about them with visuals and shit? Try to be slightly professional about it. But that's going to take time, effort, and in some cases, money to do. It's going to suck that way. But another topic episode I want to talk about is the money part of that. Call of Duty prices. Like the prices of Call of Duty games. That's something I would like to talk about sometime. But that's not going to be an immediate thing. These aren't going to be super common. These just random topic episodes. I will definitely be talking about games and whatnot. Like, I would love to... I need to play Ni no Kuni 2, properly. I need to finish Ni no Kuni 2, platinum it, and get everything. There's so many games I want to play, but part of the reason I haven't been able to is because I've been deadlining myself with books, which I guess we should probably get into now. It's going to be a short episode this week. It's just going to be a bit of a ramble, discussion, rant thing. So... yeah. So let's go ahead and get into the topic update. Not topic update. God, my brain's fried. It's 3 in the morning. 3:30 in the morning. The day that this is supposed to go out. So I also have to vaguely edit this and upload it. So that's going to be fun. Anyway, the challenge update. So, as I mentioned in the most recent LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean, I'm fucking off the Kane Chronicles. Fuck it. I'm tired of it. I don't care about the last book. I don't care about an incomplete story. I just don't care. It's been punishment enough. The fact that it was a punishment to begin with is the sad part. And the fact that I replaced one book with 3 and I was already a week behind kind of made things tough. to say the least. Um, I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting to hate the Kane Chronicles quite as much as I did. So, yeah. And even with removing the last Kane Chronicles book, I'm still super far behind. I am only a little over halfway through The Hammer of Thor. I'm having a lot of trouble getting through it, mostly just because my attention span for some reason is shot to hell recently. I haven't had the oomph to just sit down and read the book. But I think that's partially because I'm a little bit burnt out on reading in general, at least reading Rick Riordan, to be fair. His writing style is getting a little bit grating, to be honest. It's not bad. They're still good books, except for Kane Chronicles. I still don't like Kane Chronicles. But the Magnus Chase books are good. I like them. They're fun. They're doing interesting things. Though you can tell that Rick Riordan is starting to realize, like, oh, I'm dipping into this topic, but maybe for some people I'm not dipping far enough, or, oh, I've decided I want to dip further into this character, and now I have to explain why I wasn't doing this earlier. Like, for example, Sam. In the first book, she is mentioned to be Muslim, and that's about it. She's just mentioned to be Muslim, and she has a betrothed, an arranged marriage, but she's really cool with it, because they, I guess, took her input, but also maybe they were just like, him? And she's like, sure. I don't know. But that was kind of the first book, to where it made it seem like she wasn't all that, like, super into the religion. She was just kind of doing it for her grandparents kind of thing, but the guy she was betrothed to, she was super into, so it was all good. But now in this book, they've decided, he's decided, nah, she's like super practicing. She just, put off things because she was in a different realm. And it's like, okay, but it seems kind of wedged in there, like, oops, I forgot to actually have her do anything related to her religion. Here we go. Here it is now. Good? Okay, that works. But, yeah, so then there's the whole inconsistency with how the mechanics of the world work. That's kind of annoying. And instead of having any kind of, like, subtext, it's just fucking text. Which I guess is fine for not wanting to be subtle. But, hey, it works, I guess. It's just that the writing's starting to grate on me. I am never doing something like this again, to where I'm shotgunning 26 books in a fucking row and hating myself by the end and slightly not liking the author. I still like Rick Riordan. I still will read the books. Just, it's going to be a long time before I read them again. And it's going to be a long time before, like, before I even attempt to touch certain books again, to be honest. Like, I'll go back to the original Percy Jackson series probably in a few years. And then from there, I might touch a specific series on its own, but I'm not going to do, like, from Heroes of Olympus straight into Trials of Apollo kind of thing. Not happening. So, let's talk about what's happening currently in the Magnus Chase book that I am currently in. So, I don't know if I've actually stated this in an episode before, but I personally feel that the Magnus Chase books are the most D&D books that there are. Because usually in a Rick Riordan book, it's that they're specifically either following these points for a specific quest. So, like, in the original Percy Jackson book, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, sure, there's some moments where things just kind of happen to them, but usually it's not that much of a change. I guess it's not that detrimental or that much of them being shoved off route, if that makes any sense. In this, it's side quest upon side quest. So, for example, where I've just gotten past is they've just come back from Alfheim. So they went to Alfheim to get the Skofnug stone. It's the whetstone for the Skofnug sword. It's the only one that can sharpen the blade, and it's the only one that can mend wounds caused by the blade. So they went there for that. But in order to get the stone, Magnus has to make an appearance at Hearthstone's dad's place, and 2, Hearthstone must pay his wergold. Now, his wergold is because he's been blamed for the murder or the death of his brother, even though technically it's not his fault. He was just deaf and couldn't hear the monster attacking his brother. And yeah, so they have to pay the wergold. So that's the side quest, is pay the wergold. They go to rob a dwarf that's hiding out in Hearthstone's dad's backyard. They rob him, pay the wergold, and then they have to make a hasty escape. So that's usually what it comes down to. So in order to get a main quest item, they must go on a quick side quest in order to accomplish that. And sometimes those side quests branch off into other mini side quests, but otherwise it kind of goes, to get story item, you must do side quest thing, then come back, get story item, leave. And that's how it was in the first book for every little bit that they did. And that's how is in this book. It's not bad. It's just kind of predictable. And it makes the story feel a lot smaller. Because they're working towards one specific thing. But they're constantly having to, branch out and come back. Like, technically. So, the main-ish quest in this is prevent Sam from being forced to marry a giant. That's kind of main quest. In order to do that, well, they haven't figured out exactly how they're going to do that. They thought, well, in order to do that, they have to get Thor's hammer to prevent the wedding. But the first place that they thought Thor's hammer isn't where it was. It was just a dungeon thing with some Draugr. So, and in that borough was the bride price, the Skofnug blade. And then they had to go get the Skofnug stone, and then boom, they have the bride price for the wedding. But no, they don't plan on doing that, but they're still going to do it anyway because they had to save the dwarf, Blitzen. So they go do that. Then they, like I said, they have to pay the wergold, rob a dwarf, get the money. His dad goes crazy, and then they leave. And then they show Amir, Sam's betrothed, the 9 realms. They fucking force him to look and see what is there. And so he's like the only mortal to get clear sight post, birth. Yeah, he's the only one that's been able to attain clear sight. And yeah, now they have to go see Utgard Loki, Loki of the outer side, or whatever he's called, or Outer Lands. Again, he's the one that in the first book was a pigeon who turned into an eagle and made them not only go get the sword, tell them where the Sword of Summer was in the first book, but also asked for a Apple of Immortality. That was the side quest item that they had to get, whilst getting the main quest item, the Sword of Summer. But yeah, that's kind of how the books feel. It's not terrible. It's good. Overall, in theory, I should be able to get Magnus Chase done in time to read the new Percy Jackson book and finish it in time. The new Percy Jackson book is not that long. Let me look it up real quick. It's only like 200-something pages. Possibly becoming one of, if not the shortest Percy Jackson book. And the Chalice of the Gods. Yeah, it's only 256 pages. I'm currently in the Magnus Chase book on page 270. So I could probably, in theory, finish Chalice of the Gods in a day. I understand that it's taken me almost a week or two to finish this book, but that's because I'm distracted and having issues. This one, since it's going to be the last book, I can push to the end with it. So in theory, the challenge isn't completely screwed, and I don't get that book until Wednesday. So I have until Wednesday to finish this book and read all of the next book, the last Magnus Chase book, and then on to Percy Jackson when it comes in. Hopefully, I'll be able to line it up decently. Who knows? And once the challenge is over, I do have a list of books that I do plan on reading, but I'm going to take my sweet-ass time. I'll do episodes on most of them, probably, but I am going to pretty much take my time reading them. And then from there, I'll be able to do more video games, more movies and whatnot, especially with the strikes supposedly coming, hopefully, to an end soon. The Writers Guild has reached a tentative deal, so with any luck, the writer's strike will be over soon, and then it's just the actors' strike that needs to end, and then things can move on a lot more smooth for everyone, so that's good. But yeah, in general, things. The next episode of this podcast is going to be something. I'm thinking it's going to be the first season of the Doctor Who revival with the 9th Doctor? Is he the 9th Doctor? Yes. Yes. He is. Christopher Eccleston. That one. That will be the next episode, probably. If not, it'll probably be... I don't know. It might be words. It's there. The thing I was thinking about doing potentially for today, but I didn't. Oh, it might be Mortal Kombat, the 90s movie. But I kind of want to do a full thing of the Mortal Kombat. I don't know. I have to figure that out. Because sometimes I want to do like big bundled episodes where I talk about, I'll talk about Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and then the 2022? Or is it 2020? 2021? The most recent live action Mortal Kombat movie. And put them all together. But then that's kind of too much. So I need to separate it out. Oh, I need to do some horror stuff, actually. Because it's getting close to Halloween. Yeah. So I need to line up some horror stuff, and I need to plan out what I plan on doing for the next few episodes. Anyway, that's for me to figure out and for you guys to enjoy when it comes out, hopefully. With that said, though, that's this episode. The last episode of Lego Pirates of the Caribbean will be going up this Wednesday. And then afterwards, I'll be streaming a lot more, especially when I'm done with the challenge. So I'll be streaming a lot more. I'll be playing something else maybe for a series, or I'll just fully shift into streaming. Probably the streaming, because people tend to like that a bit more. Though I do need to make some tweaks to like audio and stuff so I can actually make shorts out of the streams. Like, that's another thing. You guys might have noticed I've been not doing a whole lot of like gaming shorts lately. And that's because I don't have fucking content that I can use. See, the way I make shorts is I just, go into my episodes and I'll go and like make a short out of something. Because that's how I've been doing it. Otherwise, I don't fully understand how you're supposed to make shorts on, unless like you can do it like by trimming it on the app. I don't know. I haven't fully delved into how making shorts fully works outside of, recording myself or taking clips directly from videos and turning them into shorts. I would like to do it in a way that has higher quality, because God, some of those shorts end up super fuzzy. I'll just leave it there. Anywho, thank you guys so much for listening. I will talk to you guys later. If you guys like this, feel free to give a like, comment, subscribe. If you have any ideas on other topic episodes, feel free to leave suggestions in the comments on YouTube, or I guess you could technically email the show. I've had an email this entire time. It's I think it's lost in sci-fi and fantasy at gmail.com. Let me check. It's something like that. I haven't used it at all. Let's see. It is lost in sci-fi and fantasy at gmail.com. All lowercase, all one word. No symbols. So yeah. So if you have any topic suggestions, feel free to shoot them my way. I would love to talk about stuff more. But yeah, other than that, feel free to follow the podcast, share it with your friends, and I will talk to you guys later. Goodbye.